Hi everyone, so I wanted to give you a little bit of an insight into what the audio clips sound like on the programme. So in this clip we are going to be listening to the audio for session 2 in week 1, which is all about creating a desire to move forward. So welcome to your first focus training session. In this session we're going to look at how to get our horses in front of the leg. Anyone who's ridden a lazy horse will tell you that even just trotting around the outside of an arena can be really hard work. I've been there so many times, and without impulsion, our horses cannot have a good contact, they can't be straight, we cannot begin to think about having collection or rhythm or suppleness or starting to think about any of the advanced work. All of this results in you not having control over your horse. If you don't have control over the speed, then you can't begin to think about moving on to controlling their neck, their back, or any part of their body. Impulsion is the first thing that any rider needs to focus on. So I want you to think back to last session where we ran through our 3 checks. Did your horse continue going forwards when you took your leg off? How many times did you have to apply your leg before your horse went up into trot or canter? And how many seconds did it take for your horse to go up into trot and canter? So in today's session, we're going to improve the first 2, asking our horses to take us more forwards and improving our go aid. These 2 are essential as we need to be able to take our leg off our horses so that our leg is then free to ask for other aids. We also need our go aid to be perfect. Firstly, because transitions are such a big part of any test and can make the difference between a 60% test and a 70% test. It's also important because if our horse gets behind the leg in a test, we need to be able to fix it quickly. And the more effective our go aid is, the quicker we can fix it. So now we know why we're doing the session, we need to look at what exercises we're going to do. So first things first, I want you to spend the first 15 minutes stretching your horses and warming them up. Start with the work that we did in the last session, introducing the stretching and building on it. Your aim is for it to be better at the end of those 15 minutes. Now, if you are still a bit confused as to how to introduce the stretching, then I would strongly suggest going back to the last session that we did, just to give yourself a bit of a recap. Now, everything we do today is going to make a massive difference to your stretching too. So it'll be really interesting to see what your stretching is like at the end of this session as well. So after you finish stretching, we're going to focus first on getting our go aid to be more effective. So from now on, the only time you are ever going to put your leg on is when you want your horse to go more forward. Other than that, your leg is going to be off the horse. This makes when you put your leg on more of a big deal to your horse, rather than them thinking, oh, that was just one out of the last 50 kicks that she's done. So we're going to spend the next 15 minutes riding lots of transitions. Transitions are key to getting our horses in front of the leg, but the important bit is doing good transitions. So you're going to ask your horse to go up into trot by using a small squeeze. And if they don't listen, you're going to give them one big kick. You want to expect a really big reaction when you do this big kick. Whether that's a leap forwards into trot or canter. Then you're going to come back to walk and repeat, asking again with that small squeeze first. Then if they don't listen, you give your big kick. Now the small squeeze is our go aid. Eventually we want it to be the case that when we squeeze with our heel, the horse springs forwards into trot or canter. So essentially what we're doing is you say go by squeezing with your leg. And if they don't give you the reaction that you want, we have to show them what reaction we want. And that is what the big kick is for. Then when they do spring forwards, we don't give them the big kick. So every time your horse does a transition that isn't good enough, you're going to bring them back to walk and repeat it. If they do a good transition, you're going to praise them with a pat, maybe do a 20-metre circle and trot, and then bring them back to walk. If they do a few good transitions, then you're going to give them a walk break. This means that your horse will eventually realise that when they do it wrong, they have to repeat it, and when they do it right, the pressure comes off. The more good transitions you do, the more it will ingrain the good habit of doing a good transition. The more bad transitions you do, the more you will ingrain the bad habit of doing a bad transition. And if you don't repeat after doing a bad transition, all you will be ingraining is that bad reaction of them not pushing off your leg, and your horse will think that that is what you want. So spend 15 minutes or so running through lots of transitions: walk, trot, trot, canter, halt, trot. You can keep it interesting if you need to by riding them on circles, serpentines and so on. And make a note of at what point you feel it gets better, whether it's after walk, trot transitions or when you start doing some trot, canter, or perhaps even in the halt to trot transitions. Keep a note of your downward transitions as well, which are equally as important. Whilst it's key that you are able to turn on the impulsion, it's also really important that we are able to slow our horses down too. You might notice that as soon as you ask for a downwards transition, your horse stops, in which case, go straight back to trot and try again. Each time you feel your horse drop behind your leg in the downward transition, ride straight out and forwards. An easy way to help with this is to create a middle pace between your trot and your walk. So slow your trot up to the point where you are just about to walk, then keep them in this joggy trot. If you feel they're still with you, then they can walk. If you feel they're behind you and they keep trying to walk, then you're going to keep asking for that joggy trot until they start listening to you. The key is to basically always do the opposite of what your horse wants to do. Not because we're mean, but because we need to have the ability to do both. And if our horses naturally want to do more, then we recognise that as a strength, but focus on the other as their weakness. If they want to slow down, you're going to ride them more forward. If they want to go more forward, you're going to slow them down. The next 15 minutes then, we're going to spend teaching our horses to take us forward. The transitions do a great job of waking our horses up and getting our go aid to be more effective. But now we need to teach our horses that we're not there to carry them around anymore and keep them going. This is done really simply by just riding around the arena, asking your horse to go in a forward-going trot or canter, and then take your leg off. Once you feel that you've got this, you can take your leg off and wait until your horse starts to slow down. It will most likely be that he'll slow down or stop when you take your leg off. If this happens, put your leg on to put him back into the forwards trot, then take your leg off again. Now this may take some time for your horse to click, but once your horse understands that your leg means go and leg off means just keep going, you're going to have a horse that is much easier to control their speed and their activity and their energy. Feel like you've got it, then you can try it in canter. It takes a bit of practice and you have to be very disciplined with yourself that you don't let yourself get drawn in to using your leg to keep your horse going every stride. Now, if you're reading this and thinking, I don't have a problem getting my horse to go, I have a problem getting my horse to stop, then your problem is still impulsion, but your horse is giving you too much impulsion than you need. In which case, that previous exercise still works really well. Ask your horse to ride a transition to walk, but don't let them walk. You'll feel your horse keeps wanting to pull you forward into that more faster trot, but keep asking them to stay slow and steady until you feel that point that they stop pulling and they start waiting. Once you feel they're waiting for you, then you can let them go forwards. But this time, the forwards and the speed is on your terms. So let's recap what we're going to do in today's session then. We're going to spend 15 minutes stretching our horses and checking in to see how they're feeling. Then we're going to spend 15 minutes on transitions, making sure that we ask first by squeezing, and then if they don't react, with one big kick. If you get a bad transition, come back and do it again. If it's a good transition, then you can carry on. Then we're going to spend 15 minutes riding around and taking our leg off. If our horses slow down, we're going to apply our leg to put them back into the forward trot or canter and then take our leg off again. The last 15 minutes, we're going to spend cooling our horses down. Again, we're going to allow them to stretch and then we're going to give them a big walk on a long rein. So now you've finished week 1, session 2, your first focused training session. Once you've sorted your horse, make sure you go and write down what exercises worked well and what perhaps didn't work so well, where you felt you could have improved and what felt absolutely amazing. If you feel like you didn't get the most out of this session, then do repeat it. It's much better you continue doing this session until you feel your horse truly takes you forward and that you have an effective go aid before moving on to the next session. So I will see you next time for week 1, session 3 of improving the reaction times and apply all of this into a test.